Oh, good, you're here. Come on. This is the centre of performance. Whenever there's a top performance in New Zealand, it all comes from here. That's Lisa Carrington. She's been doing that for days. That's the boy who got the hole-in-one in Taupo. Oh, he did it again. Hey, Finn, how's the performance going?
Top tier.
Nice. This is our Generate room. In here, you'll find our top performers helping Kiwis maximise their KiwiSaver investments. Get in here, Finn. Maximise.
Right,
Generate. Putting performance first.
Steve Devine, welcome to my podcast.
Good to be here.
Mate, it's great to connect. You reached out to me and I was like, shit, yeah, I'll have you on my podcast.
Yeah, no, we're getting out there doing all sorts of things. It's the last couple of weeks has been pretty hectic, but pretty exciting at the same time.
Why have the last few weeks been pretty hectic and exciting?
So we essentially launched 2 weeks ago, a week ago, a portable brain scanner that assesses and detects concussion with a 2-minute scan. And that's sort of a bit of a game changer, really, in terms of concussion around sport, but not just sport, around New Zealand.
And this is something you know a lot about. Shit, there's a lot of chapters to this podcast today. Yeah. There's a lot to talk about. There's there's the concussion stuff, the rugby stuff, the fire service stuff, life after. There's a lot.
Yeah.
But just rugby injury stocktake. Let me know if I miss anything here. 3 broken fingers, broken toe, broken nose, broken collarbone, ribs, 12 ankle operations.
Yeah.
ACL reconstruction, teeth knocked out, and that's from the neck down, and then the neck up, 30 to 40 concussions.
I'd say comfortably 30 to 40, yeah, unfortunately. But it was a long time ago when things a lot's changed in rugby, particularly rugby these days, which is good. But we need to get a bit better as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll get into the MedTech lab group stuff and this portable brain scanner, which you've got right here.
Yep.
We'll chuck it on the table for a bit so it's on camera for anyone that's watching the podcast. But these head injuries that you suffered over your playing career, how do you feel now when you get out of bed? So 20 years later after retiring.
I feel old like everyone else when I get out of bed. But 20 years on, I still get I get injections in my head, my temple, and my neck. So I get into a stage where I get really fatigued. I get a lot of headaches, and those headaches can develop into migraines. So I feel when that's happening, I've sort of learned to know when I'm starting not to do well, that I reach out to my doctor and he gives me a few more injections and we're pretty good for a little while after that. So as long as I keep on top of things, the head-wise, I'm generally pretty good these days, I feel.
You say you're pretty good for a while after that. How long? How long do these injections last?
Sometimes now, like we're getting out towards 2 years.
Okay.
So it is pretty good. And initially it was sort of 12 weeks sort of thing, and we had to keep on top of it. But I'm pushing it out now, which is quite nice. At times I still feel like I might have a migraine, but I don't have the blinding headache. I just feel a bit sick and want to vomit sometimes, and sometimes do. But that's a small price to pay for what I was living with a migraine. So I'm certainly happy for that to happen.
When you say sometimes, like how frequently or infrequently?
It might be, a couple of times a month. I just don't. I feel like I have a migraine without having the headache. I just feel a bit yuck in the stomach and sometimes want to throw up. And but that, like I said, that's a hell of a lot better to where I was, because where I was
a couple of times a month, though. That's still not a great quality of life.
I like at my worst, I was 4 days a week in bed, curtains drawn, lights out with a bucket by the bed for days, sometimes multiple days and nights. Post my last hit to the head, that was essentially 2 years. I was that bad.
So this is while you were still playing, or after you finished playing?
That was my last hit. The last hit to the head. I the next day I woke up. I was sore. I had some teeth issues. I had a nose issue, and I was pretty sore. And then in the days post that, I got my first ever migraine, and then they essentially just kicked in for, at the start it was, 5 out of the 7 days. It was tough.
Mm. You played your last game in 2007.
I think it was like round 1 of the MPC that year. So against Counties at Eden Park. And I think we had a little scrum move off the back of a scrum, 8 past the 9. And then that's about the last thing I remember. Still to this day, I've seen it, but don't really remember it. And just got a big swinging arm to the mouth, nose area. And and that was about it. I know I went to hospital that day they thought I had a broken nose or hematoma in my nose, and then to the dentist not long after.
Is that the photo from that game?
No, that was
another one.
That was well before that. Yeah,
another one. Because this was like a recurring thing in your rugby career. Like your first All Black test against England, you were concussed twice.
Yeah,
it's just like an ongoing.
Yeah,
what is it? Bad luck, or were you just concussion prone?
I don't know. I think maybe the repetitive effect certainly took its toll towards the end. But in the starter, I was a lot littler than most of the people I was playing against, which probably didn't help. I threw myself around probably a bit more than I needed to, which probably didn't help. And I certainly didn't allow myself to recover as well as I should have. But, what you don't know back in the day. So that all those sort of factors I feel probably led me down the track I went down.
Mm. What impact have these head injuries had on you? Not in terms of the actual pain and discomfort, which you sort of talked about before, about days in bed, but just like from a mental perspective.
I went from being a really fit person. Like I was really fit, even amongst the professional athletes I train with. I was, towards the top end of being fit, and within a week I couldn't get out of bed, and that was really hard for me. I really, really struggled to not be the person I was. And they were dark days, and they were long. It was 2 years of really, really struggling to exist as a human being. I was a new parent. I had a migraine when my second child was born. They woke me up in a lazy boy, and he pops out, and I went back to sleep because I couldn't see. The birth care in Auckland is an amazing building up on the top story of Auckland Hospital with amazing views of the city, but I had to have the curtains drawn. It was just the light I was too sensitive to the light, and I had a migraine, and I couldn't cope even on a day like that. I really struggled to exist as a human being, as a functioning human being.
Did it change your personality?
I think,
how can it not?
In those moments, definitely. Like I was grumpy, I was angry. I couldn't socialise. I couldn't concentrate on a conversation. Like I just literally, if I was in a bar or a restaurant where there was background noise, I couldn't do it. I'd last 2 minutes and I'd just have a headache, and I'd be so fatigued from it that I'd have to get out of there. Socially for those few years I was inept, really. I couldn't handle that aspect of things, the noise.
You just become reclusive.
Well, yeah, I was trying to exist as a human, and the effort it'd take would take a lot out of me, and I think that probably trying too hard in the early days probably contributed to me having migraines lasting for so long, because having a couple of young kids running around the house and whatnot, it was with not a lot of help, and also not a lot of medical advice on how to do or what to do, because it was so early days around concussion. Initially, they didn't even think it was from my brain. Initially, they thought I had some sort of fatigue syndrome, because that's where my symptoms. I was just so fatigued. Did
you know in your heart it was your brain though?
I knew something was wrong. So I literally, I woke up in my car between rugby trainings. Like I drove home between trainings, and I just woke up in my car in my garage because I just fell asleep. I was so tired, Another time I got out of the car, made it to the hallway, and I just slept in the hallway and then wake up and go back to training. And I remember sitting down with my doc and just going, Doc, I literally, I don't know what's wrong with me, but I know there's something seriously wrong. And before one of the games, I just slept for days. Like I literally slept for 16 hours before one of the games, and then all day of the game. And I just, that's not like me. And I didn't know what was wrong. And one of my rugby matches, I was playing Queensland, and I was playing a halfback called Sam Cordley, who I played Australian 21s with. So I knew Sam reasonably well, and halfway through the match, he looked at me like he looked me dead in the eyes at a scrum, and he's like, "Mate, are you all right? You don't look well." And I was just so fatigued and I just had no idea what was going on. Which is amazing, right? An opposition player can take the time out to sense it.
Yeah, it's touching, really.
Mate, yeah.
That's a beautiful moment. It's lucky you remember it.
Yeah. And I had been knocked out in the weeks prior, like 3 weeks leading up to that game, and I on that Monday morning before it, I said to Doc, something's wrong, and then the coaches walk in and say, we've had a few injuries, so you good to go? And it was like, yeah, I'm good. But I knew, I really knew something wasn't well that match. And I took some time off post that game. I just couldn't operate. So I had 6 months off, and we're on all sorts of medication to try and get better. And with a bit of a rest, I came good. I think that was 2005, and then maybe 2006, and then I had came back for another year essentially before I took the last hit to the head.
Are there many black spots in your memory? Like, can you remember a lot of what went on, or are there periods that it's like they never happened?
Funnily enough, like I don't remember a lot of the on-field stuff, but not a lot of the boys can. Like it's always a bit of a blur, and so fast and has it happened. So I don't remember a lot of the on-field stuff. I still remember a lot of the good times off the field. I'm probably better at some of the boys actually at remembering some of those times, which is nice for me. I don't remember anything of my first Test match. I was knocked out twice in that game, and eventually came off. I needed, I think, a dozen stitches around my eye, and I was keen to go back on, and I didn't know. One of the coaches mentioned a move at halftime, and I was, for the life of me, I did not know what it was. And then I asked one of the other guys, and they were like, well, that's not right. And then the doctors got involved, and they were like, nah, you're not going back out. Which is, you work so hard and you train so hard for so long to get a moment like that, and then, very disappointing to not be able to play, and then also think, I might actually be heading home here. So, that was hard. It was a hard couple of days thinking finally getting to where you want to be, and then have it end by an injury that you can't see. So it was probably lucky that we used to do a baseline test back in the day. So you'd have a baseline test that you knew that you couldn't go very well in, because if a situation arose where you needed to play, you could then probably pass the baseline. So I'm not 100% sure, but I know in the days after my first test, I did a baseline. I did a test, and they compared it to the baseline, and I was all right, so I got to stay.
Because you were just that hungry to play.
I just loved it, eh?
Yeah.
Like, it's not. I'm not an athlete that, like, I'm not a Dan Carter or a Richie McCaw, and I had to work really, really, really hard to where I got, and you finally get there, and then have to have it taken away by something that happened, but you can still run the next day, you can still walk, you sort of feel like I'm good to go. And
a bit cheated.
I was ultra competitive, which was probably my biggest problem looking back, and it's like, yeah, let's go, let's get amongst it, which was as much as I sort of feel the whole thing is as much as my fault as anyone else's fault where I ended up.
What about the impact? You just before we started recording, you said you've just become an empty nester. Your kids are adults; they've left home. Are you on marriage number one?
No, I've been divorced from the mother of my boys, and
did the concussions have anything to do with that? Or?
Yeah, 100%.
Yes, you sort of pushed her away.
Well, I think there was a lot of I was like a bear with a
sore head, literally a sore head.
And I wasn't the person who I was, and I was not well, and I couldn't be well. Like I couldn't be myself because I was just. I was just unwell, and that definitely led to, a breakdown in the relationship for sure.
Well, it's a big burden for the other person, isn't it? It's a lot to take on.
Yeah, I mean, being, things get hard in my life. I refer to health and happiness because at the end of the day, there's essentially the only two things that are important when you are ill. Gravely ill in a bed, your health and your happiness are, two things that need to be a priority. And so, when things get tough for me, that's what I remind myself, and that's where I go back to making sure I'm ticking those two boxes. Then life is generally pretty good. But unfortunately, for a lot of people, the health side of things is not a tick in the box.
Yeah. What other impact has it had on your family and friends?
Yeah, I was very lucky. 2 years post my really severe symptoms, I received some medication that really helped me. And, from then I was able to function as a human being again. So, those injections just, they saved my life really. And I can be a functioning human being again, and got my life back on track. It took a while, joined the fire service and doing some other business stuff these days. And the fire service for me, I really enjoy being part of a team, and the fire service really, I found a team environment in that, which was really good for me, but also allowed me to be a dad for 4 days out of 8. I was at work for 4 days on and 4 days off, and for those 4 days I was essentially a single dad just looking after his kids, which was a great time essentially for me. It was hard, but it was a time where I can invest 4 days into my kids a week, which, not a lot of people get an opportunity to do that.
Yeah. And rock bottom for Steve Devine, what did that look like?
That was me not knowing if I was ever going to get better. It was
after being in pain for how long?
2 years.
Oh.
So yeah, it was a ride, and it was a tough ride, and that was rock bottom. I just wanted the headaches to go away, just make the headaches go away, and I let me live my life. And fortunately enough, the injections did that, and I feel lucky because I had a life again, and I just know there's a lot of people out there with concussion that are in those moments that they're in those moments, and they don't have answers to their solutions. I met up with a guy this morning who's going through some troubles, who's a mutual friend, and we had a good chat for an hour and a bit about how those moments, what helped me in those moments, and maybe what could help him. But concussion in the brain is such a big complex organ that no one really knows. So I mean, a lot of people that have had things similar to me, what I did doesn't help, and what works for them doesn't work for me. It's such a strange organ that we don't really know a lot about. So yeah, it's good to be able to talk about it and help people that maybe don't know where to go, because it's a battle.
At your lowest, did you ever consider taking your own life?
Don't tell my kids.
Yeah, is that what kept you here?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How old were they at the time?
So my youngest would have been 2, younger than 2, between, he would have been, 1, and Miles probably was 3.
Fuck, that's grim. It's a grim space to be playing in. I can see you getting emotional today. When there's been a couple of incidents of rugby players in the past year or so that have taken their own life, and it's thought to be related to the same sort of thing. Do you shudder when you hear that? How do you feel when these cases crop up? You count yourself lucky that it wasn't you?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I find that really difficult because, whenever there's new research comes out or new development, that I get a phone call from a journalist that wants to write a story about whatever it is, and, some of it has been grim, where it's like, Alzheimer's and dementia, and, you're probably going to have it, and, it's grim to think about what may happen. But at the same time, I'm very thankful that I have what I have. And I don't know, am I living with a time bomb? I don't know. So that just makes me want to, live life for now and not too much in the future, because I don't know. And it may be good, it may be bad, I don't know. But, I just... as long as I look after my health and happiness today, then I feel like I'm in a pretty good space.
Do your kids know what you just shared here?
Yeah. Listen, they know. I finished playing rugby because of my hits to the head. They know that. I've coached both of them for a long time in rugby. So yeah, they know. They understand that. They probably don't know the grim detail that I just spoke about, but I guess they're of age now. I probably tried to protect them for a long time, but I guess they're of age now where they can understand that.
Well, no doubt they'll hear this or watch this, or information will get fed back to them. I think they'll be proud and relieved. But yeah, if they happen to be watching this or listening to this, what would you want to say to them directly?
Well, I've always told them, the hardest thing you're ever going to do as a male is ask for help. So, yeah, I just hope if anyone ever is in those moments that they reach out for help.
Did you?
It took me a while, and I did. I reached out to my old footy doctor, Stephen Cara, and he sort of set me in a track that really assisted, and we're still friends. Oh my God! No, we're still. Doc's a great man, and he's probably now maybe the best doctor in New Zealand in terms of head injury. So he was part of the journey and still is, and and a great man. And anyone out there who's really struggling, I think if you can get a hold of Doc Cara, he's certainly a great contact and a great person who will be able to help.
Well, this photo card I've got here, that's half of him.
That's Doc. Yep, that's Doc. So that must have been maybe 2005 or 6 or 7 or something like that. Yeah.
You don't look present at all.
No, I actually think that might have been at North Harbour, and for Auckland, I wasn't well. And that's it, right? But give me 5 minutes, and I was one to play on from looking like that, feeling like that.
Are you typically emotional? Are you quite no. Yeah.
I try to be old school, but
old school is not necessarily the right way.
I get emotional when I talk about my kids.
Yeah,
which is all right, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I appreciate you, being vulnerable on the podcast today. Are you I don't know. I get the feeling you're a guy that takes extreme accountability for everything. But are you pissed off that more wasn't done to protect you?
I'm not. Like I know we just didn't know back then, and I'm sort of a bit of a ground zero case number one. So I'm not angry at anyone. I'm not. Yeah, I just want things to get better. I don't want other people to suffer. I mean, what I did was 20 years ago. We are better. We are getting better, but we need to be better. It's a big reason why I, have got involved with what I'm doing, because we got to get better.
It's a heavy price to pay, though, for a career doing something you love. With what you know now, do you, if someone came to you at 17, 18, whatever age, and said, hey, just want you to know, this is what's going to happen. You're going to make the All Blacks. You're going to have this amazing career, but this is the price it's going to cost you. Would you have done it?
I was at 17, 18. I was a young boy full of testosterone, and I probably would have done it. Given the opportunity, would I play rugby again right now? I'd say probably would. I absolutely love what I did. It gave me a life that I got to have options, and I love that. It took its toll. We could all sit around in bed all day, not going outside, thinking so we don't get hurt and we live a long life. But is that really living? I definitely went too far. With my injuries, particularly to my head, I definitely went too far, and that's where I think we need to get better to make sure that doesn't happen again. And we can, like, my understanding. I'm not a neurologist, but my understanding of the brain, if we give it time to heal, that it can do that. But we certainly got to stop people going too far. Like, once enough is enough, and I probably push those boundaries out too far.
You mentioned before you're not sure what the future brings, although to be fair, none of us do. But is there a dramatically increased risk of dementia, or?
I think probably. I think there's some research released by New Zealand Rugby Union maybe a month ago about, they interviewed every rugby player in the past they could find, and I think there is a couple of % chance that playing rugby, particularly professional rugby, there's probably a 3% chance that there is those increases. I look back, 50 years ago, the people with dementia now, it's almost 50-50 between male and female, and 50 years ago, females didn't play rugby. So I'm sure possibly rugby has something to do with it. I like to think that it doesn't have everything to do with it. That's the way I see it. That's the way I've got to tell myself to see it. I think in times, we're probably going to find out more about it and what to do and what not to do around dementia and Alzheimer's and those sorts of things. But does rugby play a part? It probably plays a little part. But I still think that what a young male gets in playing a team sport definitely outweighs the fact of what could be injury, whether it's your arm, your leg, or it's your head. I really think the benefits of team sport for our young kids definitely outweighs injury risks.
If a young player or the parent of a young player came to you for advice, what would you say to them about head injuries?
I'd say rest. It's important to rest post. If you just keep going and getting, my little hits became hits, if you know what I mean. Like, for not having a week off and come back the next week, get another little hit, and I get knocked out, and then I come back the next week and get even a little hit. It was like towards the end, the last couple were big, but I had some time off, and the last few, they weren't very big hits, and I was knocked out. So, that was just the brain saying you need to rest. There's some pretty good protocols now that developed across all sports in New Zealand. I think they were announced maybe a month ago as well, with Dr. Stephen Carr leading the charge, that there's a 21-day return to play protocol. If you're feeling good, you progress. If you don't feel good, you regress back, and you wait till you get to where you're feeling well, and then you can start playing again is the safest way to do things these days. So that's exciting that, all sports, no matter what sport, if you have been knocked out or a doctor senses you have been knocked out, then you have a protocol to follow, regardless of who you are, what sport.
Yes, so Dr. Stephen, who you've mentioned a couple of times, it was ultimately him that said, "Bro, you got to give it away." Was there anyone else like before that in your corner, like your mum, your dad, partner, anyone that was like, "Steve"?
Yeah.
Not that you would have listened, I'm sure. But
well, I think my partner at the time was probably asking the questions, like, this has been happening for a bit now. And Doc Cara, he just said to me in the end, I wasn't well post the last knock, and I knew, give it a while and I'll come right and I'll be able to play again. But, Doc said to me, he goes, I still remember it, he goes, "Mate, chances of you receiving another hit to the head playing rugby are 100%. And, another one is going to make you worse." And, I listened to him and I understood it, but I felt that I was going to get better. And then I will worry about that when I get better. But I was unwell for 2 years. Not one day in those 2 years did I ever think I could play rugby, because I was so unwell. And then, after 2 years, you're a dinosaur, and it was, yeah. But I know now, like, I do things that I make sure I look after my head. Like I don't do water skiing. I'm probably never going to go snowboard skiing. I just got to make sure that I don't do anything silly and wake the head unnecessarily, because another one, who knows?
Thanks for being so open about all this stuff, by the way.
Well, we got to get better, right?
Yeah, we do. What needs to change? What are some easy, quick fixes?
Listen, for me, and I've said this for a long time, is that, in the professional game of rugby, you have your team doctor on the sideline, you have the opposition team doctor on the sideline, and two physios from each, and a doctor in the grandstand doing HIAs. In a game, I was 8 seconds away from having the best medical people around me. They'd run onto the field. I was a professional game where we were very well looked after. It's the amateur game and the schoolboy game where there isn't a doctor. Sometimes there's a physio, not all the time, and we're leaving some decisions left up to parents, parent coaches, student coaches, and people that are not really in a position to really assess what's going on. And I think in those moments in that amateur game, not just rugby or league, any game, in those moments we need to get better. Because that's a large majority of people, right? Like,
absolutely.
There's a very small percentage of people play professional rugby or league or hockey or whatever it is, equestrian riding. There's a very small percentage, and it's the larger majority of the people that probably don't have the access they should have to a doctor when they need it.
That leads us to the portable brain scanner. So how did you get involved with medtech lab groups? How did this relationship come about?
So they reached out to me a little while ago about this device that essentially it's a portable brain scanner. There's no baseline test or anything like that, and it assesses and it detects concussion in 2 minutes. And I initially said that's open. I left that open now.
Jeez, it's a tiny bit of kit, isn't it?
Yeah, it's tiny. So initially I thought, this is actually too good to be true. And, I rang up Doc Cara and we had a yarn to Doc about it, and we had a couple of Zoom meetings, and that's essentially it. And when you plug it in, there's just two little LED lights on the inside that flash for a minute of the 2 minutes, and it reads the brain. So it takes 400,000 data points in those 2 minutes, and then uses an AI to say yes or no, you're concussed or not.
How can clubs or organisations, schools, whoever, get hold of one of these?
We're working very, very hard in the background at the moment, but if they can go to neurocheck.co.nz or medtech lab groups and get hold of us, give me a call, even on Facebook, social media or whatever, just drop us a message and we'll see what we can do. I've had some really promising meetings over the last couple of weeks about, some clubs wanting it, some rugby clubs wanting it, some medical people wanting it. Rugby league, we're talking rugby league, we're talking to New Zealand Rugby Foundation. There's sort of essentially no one that says it's a bad idea. There's some people that are possibly a little bit confused about the research, but I'm no doctor. It's a medical device cleared by the FDA in America, and that clearance says that it can be used here. So,
it's cheap and accurate. It's worth a shot.
It can be used. It can be used alongside a doctor and a HIA to give him another string to the bow, essentially, for a doctor to determine if someone's been concussed or not. On the sports field in an amateur rugby game, there isn't a doctor on the sideline, and it's six at 86% success rate, and that's light years above a parent coach on the sideline, and that's where we're going to save it. The secondary hit, during a match, can be fatal. I know there was a young boy, I think, playing rugby league in Australia last year, died. Was put back on the field and got a second one, and that's an area where I feel again, I'm not a doctor, but I feel this is a device that right now is better than anything out there. There's talk around use of the mouthguards. The mouthguards is great technology for detecting G-forces, but unfortunately G-forces aren't really linked to concussion. So they can be set at a G-force rate. A player can receive a hit to the head above that G-force and not be knocked out, and then the same player can receive a hit below that G-force and be knocked out. So there's no real link with the G-forces to concussion, where this it's not stopping a concussion. It's just going to tell you yes or no, and hopefully help people get their brain to rest due to the protocols. What they need to do so there isn't a long-term injury.
I mean, there's been some fairly bleak and crunchy moments in this half hour that we've been chatting so far. So if it can save anyone from going through what you've been through, then I think that's a good thing. Yeah,
and that's what it's about, right? Like, that's what it's about. I love team sport. I love kids' team sports, and the benefits of them playing them shouldn't definitely outweigh an injury. And now we have a device that can help a brain and make sure that brain gets the rest it needs. So 35,000 brain injuries in New Zealand a year, but they reckon up to 50% go undetected, undiagnosed. So maybe the same amount again, because people go to an A&E, sit there for 6 hours, decide actually don't feel too bad now, and go home. Like there's a lot we can do in the headspace, and this is a string to the bow to help sort that issue out.
Yeah, good on you, and thanks again for sharing that stuff. Is it like emotionally exhausting for you to talk about this stuff? Takes you back to some dark places?
I don't like talking about my dark places, but it happened. What's important is I reached out to my doctor and I got some help, and we found a solution that worked for me, and I wish that solution would work for everyone, but unfortunately it doesn't. But it still can work for people. But I think the biggest lesson learned, I do some work with Movember as well, is that particularly males in this country, it's all right to ask for help, and whatever it is, we need to get better at asking for help. We need to get better at going to see a doctor, because for a long time I didn't, and I suffered immensely, and I got into a really dark hole. And then we have to be able to ask for help, and I hope my boys watch this and understand that.
Yeah. Oh, congrats, mate. I'm sure they'll be so proud. Oh, I've only just met you. I'm proud of you. Yeah, I think it's great. It's really powerful stuff. And I intentionally wanted to talk about that stuff in the podcast first before we get to the fun stuff, because I feel like it's the most important.
Yeah, good.
All right. So let's go all the way back. So where are you from? Boggabri?
Boggabri.
Boggabri. Where is that? New South Wales somewhere?
Northwest New South Wales, so between Gunnedah and Narrabri, out the other side of the Great Divide. Yeah, great little town. Mum and Dad are still there. It's a little town, but I have good memories of growing up in Boggabri.
How'd you end up playing rugby? Rugby's a nothing sport in Australia, eh? They don't even care about it.
It is. I didn't even
Why
know.
didn't you play hockey or Aussie rules? Or,
I played a bit of league and a bit of soccer growing up, and then I was lucky enough to head to a private school in Sydney for my secondary schooling, and they only had rugby. So initially I put my name down to play soccer, and then a few mates were like, what's going on? So I'm proud to say that I went to St Joseph's College and I put my name down for soccer, and before the first training I decided I better give this rugby a go, and that's how I started playing rugby.
Were you naturally you're small for your age?
Yeah, I was tiny.
Were you?
I was tiny, but I was fast, and I could play all right. I was a bit of an athlete, but I wasn't. I was tiny. I was always tiny, and my first year played on the wing, and then I moved into like 10 and 12 and played a few years in the lower grades, and then moved to halfback. I was probably about 16 before I started playing at halfback, and then I just started playing rugby. But I was like, I was at a boarding school with 1,000 boarders, and I grew up with my mates, and all my mates played rugby, and that's just what I wanted to do, and that's how I got. Like, I didn't ever think I was going to be a professional athlete at it. I just loved playing with my mates on the weekend, and we'd have a few beers after the game, and I actually thought it was a cool way to meet girls as well, which in hindsight probably wasn't, and that's what it was for me. Like, it was a social event for me playing rugby, and I loved it.
So you leave school, then you become like an apprentice electrician.
Yeah, I was an electrician for 4 years, and loved that. Worked incredibly hard, and we had a good crew and had a lot of fun. My coach, my boss was a coach at West Harbour, so I ended up moving over to West Harbour in Sydney and played some great footy there, and just had a great time with the older boys. I was young. You normally play a couple of years of Colts in Australia, which is under 21s back then, and I only had 1 year, and then went and played grade with my boss. He was coaching 5th grade, so I actually started out in 5th grade West Harbour for a year or so, and then ended up playing 1st grade, and then got a bit of a bait to come over here and stand in at Auckland for MPC for a year. For 3 months.
Why? I was going to ask you that. Like, why? How did you end up in New Zealand? Because you were playing all right. So you played sevens for Australia and under 21s for Australia.
I played under 21s, and then so my coach at West Harbour, Kelvin Farrington, played for Auckland on the wing. And through Joe Stanley, Auckland were looking for a halfback, and between those two, so I came over with Graham Henry, played a trial match on number 2 at Eden Park, and then he said, "Yeah, come back. We need some halfbacks to cover because Junior Tanu was going to be away with the All Blacks." So I went home for a couple of weeks, and then came back for 3 months for the MPC campaign, and wow, I just like rugby in Australia wasn't big, but I just remember that was '98. It was just 40,000 people to a trial match at Eden Park. Was just like nothing I had ever experienced, and it was incredible. And I ended up having Auckland didn't play well 98 MPC, but I had a reasonable few games, and the Blues asked me to hang around the following year for 99.
So I'm trying to get the timeline right. Sir Graham got you over here. Is that about the same time as he fucked off to Wales?
The day I landed, so I got picked up at the airport. Chucked in a car, driven to suburbs rugby training, and on the way to training, so I think I landed around 5 on the way to training. The Guy Smith, his name was, he goes, have you heard the news? And I was like, no. And he goes, the front page of the paper today. And I was like, I've been on a flight, I have no idea. And he's like, Graham's going to Wales. That day I landed, Graham announced he was going to Wales.
So he lures you over here and then he's off.
Yeah.
Good one, Ted.
So I literally thought I'm probably going to go home tomorrow. That's what I honestly thought.
So was part of your motivation for coming to New Zealand because George Gregan was like the big dog in Australian halfback rugby at the time? Did you think you just didn't have a chance?
So this is the yarn, right? This is a good yarn. So I played NPC. They said hang around for the Blues, and then I went home and they said Australian Seven said, "Do you want to come to Dubai?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, I'll go to Dubai." And had a good time. Came home and then Eddie Jones rang up and said he was the coach of the Brumbies, and he said we want you to come down to the Brumbies. And so I had a contract with the Brumbies, to sit on the bench behind George Gregan, or I had an offer in New Zealand. So I reached out to someone on, my boss knew someone on the Australian Rugby Union board. So we asked him, what do I do? I'm a young kid. Do I sit on the bench behind George or go to New Zealand? And they said, go and get some experience. Go, you're in the same competition, go. So I told Eddie Jones that I'm going to Auckland, and he abused me on the phone. And I was like 22, and I was like, that's... Anyway, whatever, Eddie. And I came to New Zealand, and within a month of me being here, Australian Rugby announced you had to be playing in Australia to be eligible for the Wallabies. So in a month, Eddie's obviously gone to them and said whatever, and then they said, you've got to be playing here. And that really disappointed me. Disappointed me. And then New Zealand Rugby, through my manager, said, if you want to make yourself eligible here, we'd love you to do that. We're not going to promise you anything, but if you want to have a crack here in New Zealand, then we want you to do that. So I signed a clause to make myself eligible for New Zealand, but I had to stand down from international rugby for 3 years. That wasn't a problem because I wasn't good enough to be selected or eligible at that time. So I just said, yeah, okay. I made myself eligible for New Zealand and worked incredibly hard for three years, and was lucky enough to be selected at the end of that time, which was pretty cool.
What does an abusive phone call from Eddie Jones look like?
He actually said, he goes, you're turning your back on Australian rugby. And I was like, mate, you just told me to go. So I just, what? So that was me being stubborn and being competitive, digging my toes in and saying,
if you, I can understand. You feel really sort of like, I don't know, hurt, betrayed.
I was burnt.
wounded.
I felt like they burnt me, honestly. And I was like, what, fuck you. And I signed the contract to be eligible here, which, I had an uncle here and an auntie, and that's essentially the only people I knew. And I was like, what? Let's give it a go. I was so thankful that I had an opportunity that I was just like, yeah, these people have been loyal to me. I want to be loyal to them, and let's get into it. But I absolutely loved it.
And it was the beginning of an incredible chapter of rugby for Auckland from 1998 to 2007. 78 games for Auckland and 70 games for the Blues. And this was you were going in there. It was a stacked team, right?
Oh. We were, yeah.
You were playing with Sir Michael Jones.
Yeah, so Michael, 99, I played, Sir Michael played. So I played in his last game. I've got a jumper at home somewhere with his last game. But, one of the first days of training, he comes up to me. I was just a little Aussie kid, and he said to me, he looked me in the eyes and he goes, how do you want to be remembered as an Auckland rugby player? And I said, I guess tough. I guess, not backing down from anything. And he goes, do that every day and you'll be fine. And I was like, wow. And I was like, you know what? Let's do that every day. And that's what it was. And, probably the greatest advice I ever heard from a guy that on one of our very first meetings, and he just looked me in the eyes and said, and that's what it is,
What a memory.
Incredible. And that's the man he is, right? He's tough. He was a tough boy. I think the final in 99, he, within the first couple of minutes, he cut his arm open. The doctor went off and he was going to go to hospital. And then the substitute got injured. And they messaged Doc from the coach's box and said, we've got an injury. We've got to get Michael back on. And he had like 60 stitches or something in his arm. And the doc was like, he can't. I've got to take him to hospital and get it. This is a serious wound. We've got to get it closed up. And Michael Jones just says, tape it up, Doc. And he taped it up and he went back on and finished the game. That's it. That was his last game at Eden Park in a final NPC in '99.
Is that what made him the GOAT? He was just really tough?
He's just a tough human being. And like big and ripped and muscles, and he was just, straight as straight, and just everything was based on just being tougher and harder than the next person.
But the softest guy in person as
mate.
well, like just a complete marshmallow.
I know, right? There's just chalk and cheese between it. He crossed that line, and he was an animal. Like he could do a prone bridge for like 7 minutes or something. And back in those days, like he was just mentally just tough.
Because you hear about other competitors, like the other MJ, Michael Jordan, and apparently like he's some people, depending on who you speak to, call him a bully off the court because his expectation was just that high. But no one, you won't find anyone anywhere in the world that'll say a bad word about the Iceman.
No,
wow.
just a competitor as well, and just there's a lot of people that say after his knee injury, he was lucky to walk again, and yet got back to where he was. Like, tough man.
What about the Brooks? Were they both there, Robin and Zinni?
I miss Zinni by a couple of months, really. So my first year, 98, Zinni had announced at the end of the Blues season in 98 that he was heading away. So, but played a lot with Robin. Actually caught up with him last weekend at a Maris function. Great man. Again, incredibly tough. I remember one day at training, I had the ball. It was just a training, like semi-opposed, and I was on the bottom of a ruck, and I grabbed the ball, and he just put his foot on my chest and squeezed down, and I'm on my back, and I looked him in the eye, and I was like, whatever, and I hung on to the ball, and he just put his foot down a bit lower, and I was like, holy shit. And I looked at him, and I was like, and then he went a bit lower, and he just looked at me, and then I was like I honestly thought he was going to cave my chest in, and he wouldn't have even blinked an eyelid. And I'm on his own team, and I let the ball go, and he looked at me and took his foot off my chest and was like, "That's all you had to do." He would have caved my chest in, like without even blinking.
And you're his teammate, and this is a training session. Imagine what he's like with opponents in a real life game situation.
They were just incredibly tough men back then. And don't dare show weakness. Even, you can run and you don't bend over, and you don't let your hands touch your knees, and you don't put your hands on your head. You just be tough, and you be silent about being tough, and don't show weakness.
See, and this is sort of where you, I suppose, in a way, cut your teeth or serve your apprenticeship in New Zealand rugby. So it's understandable that when you got to the big stage, like when you had a head knock, you weren't going to be like, actually, I want to sit the second half out. I've got double vision, or I'm a bit blurry. I suppose, this sort of explains why you wanted to keep on going and weren't prepared to show any weakness.
Yeah, shake it off. Broken bones. Broken whatever, you just you shake it off and you get on with it, and right or wrongly, that's what it was.
Yeah, well, it's just the environment at the time.
Yeah.
So then your All Black debut, November the 9th, 2002, against England. Yeah. What are your recollections of that? First of all, what are your recollections of making the All Blacks? Is it a TV announcement, radio announcement, phone call?
I told this story like 2 days ago on Tuesday. I had some friends over from Aussie and we were out to Waikiki. So 2002, we won the NPC against the Mulus in Waikato. We bust back. Everyone having a great time, having beers. The next day, we jump on a ferry, go out to Waikiki, and we're in one of the little bays. There's a house. It's someone's farm. I won't say who it was. And they put a marquee up on the beach. So it's just the team. We're just there, and partners and some kids, and everyone's having beers still, and we're having a great time. And there's a little marquee on the beach. They run down an extension lead, like maybe 200 metres of extension lead, and plug in a little radio to listen to the All Black naming at 12 o'clock. And I remember it vividly. We're standing around and listening, and they start naming the team, and they said Daniel Braid, and Brady was just a young kid, and I was standing right next to him, and I was like, oh my God, Brady. It was like such a moment. And then I heard Steve Devine, and I had to look around, and I was like, was that me? And they're like, yeah. And it was just wow, like instantly 1,000 emotions. I'd had a few beers over that last 12 hours and I'm instantly sober. And then within minutes, just the expectation of now being an All Black, being named as an All Black to, you just felt instantly you gotta do better. You gotta be better. And that's, I will remember that every day. Like it was so clear. But there was probably about 7 of us named in that team. I think Ali Williams, Brad Meeker, Dougie was already named.
Dougie Hallett.
Dougie Hallett was already named. There's quite a few newbies. Kevin Lamu. So it was quite a big moment for a lot of us there, and that's how we found out. And I remember ringing Mum and Dad and telling them, and it was emotional and touching, but then there was also the pressure, right? It's
well, that's when it starts.
It's time to go to work. It's literally. So we assembled the next day, and I think we had a day in Auckland and jumped on a plane to London. When I landed, I remember we landed in Heathrow, and then Robbie Deans, John Mitchell, the manager, just about everyone in management rushed me, and they started asking about my eligibility. They're like, "Are you eligible?" And I was like, "Do you have a grandfather?" And I was like, "No, but I've signed a contract to say that I am eligible." And then they were on their phones, and I was like, "What's going on?" They're like, "Oh, nothing," and there was an eligibility issue that because they changed the rules post me signing. They had changed the rules that saying that if you played sevens for another country, that you were then not eligible, respectively. So anyway, I know I was sheltered from a lot of it, but I know there was a major. I think there was a court case, a court hearing, like on the Wednesday to determine whether I was eligible or not. So I knew there was something going on. I knew there was an eligibility issue because I'd asked a lot of questions and gave my answers. And they didn't name the team. They delayed the naming of the team till they found the decision. And I think in the end, the argument was it was sevens is a different game to 15s. And
so NZR argued you in on a technicality or something.
Yeah.
How good.
But also at that tournament, like during sevens at those times, if there was an injury, you could play for another team in the tournament. So if your team was knocked out, say Australia was knocked out and the All Blacks were still in, and the All Blacks got an injury, they could pick someone who wasn't injured to fill in.
That's so random.
Yeah. Yet then they're saying you've played for that team, you're not eligible. Like it was actually. So I think legally, I think that's why I got off and why I was selected. But I was like, I remember going for a walk in London by myself, going, I know something's going down. I didn't really get to the degree of what it was going down, but I thought I might be going home. I knew there was another halfback at LA waiting for the decision as well.
Yeah, who were the other halfbacks at the time? Was it Marshall or Byron Kelleher?
Marshall, I think Kelleher was injured maybe, and Marshall, they give him the end of season tour off. So on that tour, it was me and Denny Lee on that tour. But I know Jason Spice. I've spoken to Spicey since. They sent him to LA because they didn't know the outcome.
Right.
Because they only used to have 2 halfbacks. So there wasn't an option. So Spicey was in LA at the airport waiting to see what the decision was. If it was a no for me to play, then they were going to get him to London to play.
Wow.
If it was a yes, then he got sent home, essentially.
Shit, there's a lot that seemed to go into your favour.
That was a big week. Like it was
stressful.
Yeah, it was a big week. It was a big week, and pressure from every avenue, and and then this daunting Twickenham Stadium at the end of it to a really good English team. At the end of the week, there was a lot of preparation. Was a tough week to prepare.
Yeah, that's a daunting prospect for your first test.
Yeah.
You'd like to ease into it with a game against Fiji or Namibia maybe or something, I don't know. But England's a big deal.
Yeah, especially at Twickenham. And, I remember the anthems. I actually, this is hard to believe, but I burnt a disc travelling to London, and I burnt a disc that had the national anthem and the haka on it. I knew I would be watched, and I knew I couldn't mess it up. So
even more so because of your Australianness.
Yeah, and I just didn't want to. Like my whole life, I don't want to be the weak link, and I just didn't want to ever let anyone down in that environment. So I burnt a disc, and I was at the airport, and I was buying a Discman so I could put it on the plane. And Jonah came up to me. Jonah was in the team, and he's like, "What are you doing?" I said, "I need a Discman. I've got to listen to some music on the way over." And he's like, "No," he's like, "Have mine." I was like, No, I need one, so I'm just going to buy it. He's like, "No, just borrow mine." And I was like, No, I'm going to borrow it. He goes, "Let's borrow it. I have heaps of them. Just borrow it. Definitely don't buy it. Just borrow it." I was like, "All right." So Jonah gave me his Dixman on the plane, and I listened to that the whole way over to. So we stopped in LA, and then went to Heathrow, and I just burnt batteries out both times, listening to it, and then. I went to see Jonah in his room. I said, "Jonah, I've bought you this." He's like, "No, mate, just keep it." He said, "He's already got another one," and that was the generosity of the big man. He was a great human being.
That is a great name drop. That is the best. I've heard so many stories about Jonah like that. Like how I was stopping a Harvey Norman, or I suppose it was like a Selectrix or whatever at the time, and buy like a boom box for the team bus, and then just give it to hotel staff or leave it in his room.
He's the most generous of his.
Yeah.
I knew Jonah was big. I played Super Rugby against him. I never played with him. He'd moved to Wellington by the time I got over here and played for Counties NPC. So I never ever played against him, and I knew he was huge, but I had no idea how big he was until I got to Europe. So the week we had in Paris, it was off the Richter scale.
How big he is in terms of his celebrity status.
He couldn't go anywhere. Like he was a big name here, but internationally, in that environment, it was just unbelievable how massive he was.
Yeah, because it was that 99 World Cup that he became like an international name with the game against England. So I suppose going back there 3 years later, the legend will only grow. Did you ever tackle him as an opponent?
Yeah.
Did he ever concuss you?
No. My tactic with Jonah was he was so big and so fast. Right, big people shouldn't be that fast. He was lightning quick. Was just jump in front of his knees and hope he trips on you. That's pretty much all I could do. and that was trying to play Jonah. He was so fast. I could move pretty quick, and I was nimble and light, but he, for someone that big, shouldn't be able to run that fast. And that was my only option, really. Just hope he trips on me as he goes past.
What do you remember of the game itself?
I've seen a bit of it, so I know I was playing reasonably well. We were going well in the early parts of the match. I made a good break down the sideline, and then I don't remember. I remember I think there was a scrum, and I made a tackle. The number 8 came off the back of the scrum, and I just clipped his hip. And
who was number 8 then? Was that Lawrence Delali?
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, geez.
Or it might have been like a willy away, and Diego was at 6, and he wheeled around, and I just clipped his hip, and I remember sort of coming to on the ground, and I was trying to stand up, but I was really dizzy, everything was spinning, and I couldn't stand up. It took me a while, and then Doc came on. I sat down, and sort of things settled down, and I was like, "I'm all right, Doc," and I was like, "I'm where I want to be. I'm all right," and then I made another tackle, and as I tackled, I came to the ground, and one of the English, I think it was Richard Hill, came in to clean out the ball, and just I got a knee to the head, and all as I know, I don't really know a lot what happened. I had maybe 10 stitches underneath my eye, and they took me off to stitch me up, and then. It was half time, so the players came into the dress sheds half time, and they were talking about moves that were working. I just had no idea what the moves were. I had no. They could have been talking Chinese for all. I just had no idea. And there was a baggage handler. His name was Lippy. He'd been with the All Blacks for 30 years or something. And I went up to him. I said, "Mate, do you know what these moves are?" And he looked at me funny, and I was like, "Don't tell anyone. Can you find out what they are and just tell me?" And he went to the coaches and said, I don't think he's all right. And then coaches came over with Doc, and they're like, "Do you know the moves?" And I was like, "Yeah." No, they're like, you can't go back out not knowing, because that doesn't help the team. And I said, I've got no idea what the moves are. And they're like, all right. And I didn't go back on. And that was half time. But then by the end of the match, I was clear. I worked out what had happened, what was going on. I didn't know what had happened, but I knew where I was and started to think clearly again.
Where's that test debut jersey? Have you got that framed and hung up somewhere? Or?
I actually gave it to a mate.
Who's the mate? Why would you give that away?
No, I've said a lot today, but I won't. It's a very personal story.
Right.
I won't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not something you regret. It's something you're proud of doing.
No, yeah.
Sounds like there's a good story behind it. I fully respect if you don't. Why don't you want to?
Oh, because I've never told anyone.
Yeah.
And it's between me and him.
Yeah. Fair.
Yeah.
So who else was in that team when you first joined? Well, was that McCaw's and Dan Carter's second year, first year?
No, so McCaw's second year, I think, and Dan Carter, he played the next year in 2003. So I played, so his first test was against Wales at Hamilton, and I played in that test, but he played at 12. And in that test, it was Jerry Collins made the big tackle on their big loose forward and knocked him out cold. I think Tana Umaga stopped playing and pulled his tongue out of his throat. He knocked him out. So that was Chavez, I think his name was. Yeah. Colin Chavez, I think. So that was, that game was mostly remembered for, Jerry just walloped him and he just dropped like a stone, and sort of play went on, and there was a turnover, play went on, and I think Tana stopped and assisted and pulled his tongue out.
Shit, these are some great stories, eh?
Yeah. They were great times, right?
You played alongside some just legends of the game. Johnny Wilkinson as well. He would have been playing.
Yeah, I played against Johnny at my first test, and then also I think one of my other tests, they played a game before the World Cup down here in Wellington. We lost to England in Wellington. Johnny was playing that match. And I came in off the bench. I think Justin Marshall pulled his hamstring during that game, so I came in and probably got 30, 40 minutes towards the end of the match, I think. Played Johnny. That English team they won the World Cup that year. They were very good. A lot of rugby memories. A lot of great people. I really, the thing about New Zealand that I really enjoy now is that, I travel to New Zealand a lot playing rugby, but you're in a motel, you go to the match, you might have a few beers after, and then you fly home. Traveling New Zealand post rugby and actually meeting people is way more than I ever thought. I just always thought traveling around New Zealand, meeting people in the rugby scene, but now you get to meet people from everywhere around New Zealand, and it's a great little country. It's a really cool little country.
You're a proud Kiwi, eh?
Yeah, I've lived in New Zealand now longer than Australia, which is hard to believe. I still have an Aussie passport. Some people can't believe that, but
they don't want you back now. You're damaged goods to them.
I am. Well, I can be in Sydney quicker than my parents can be, because they'll drive to Sydney. It's about 6 hours. So if I get a phone call, I can jump on a plane and be in Sydney quicker than mum and dad can be.
Did you ever play against Australia?
I did. I played in 2003 before the World Cup. We played in Africa and put 50 points on Africa at Loftus. And I started that game, and it was, probably one of my highlights in a black jersey. Juice van Westerhuizen's last game in Africa. So I have his jumper somewhere at home. And then we came to Sydney, and I thought, we put 50 on the Springboks. I'm a really good chance of playing this. The Aussies held the Bledisloe Cup, and I thought I'm a really good chance of playing here. And it turned out I was on the bench, and it was about 10 minutes to go, and I was the only one not on. And I'm like, they've got to give me. We're up by 40. I was like, they've got to give me. And Dougie Hallett went down with cramp. and they said, you're on. So I jumped up, I took my tracksuit top off, and I'm like, here we go. And then the manager, he had a microphone, but also had an earpiece, and he put the earpiece in, and it was Robbie Dean saying, you're going on the right wing, no one goes down the right side. And it was 10 minutes to go, we're well clear. And I was like, all right, no one goes down the right side. And so I went onto the wing, and I was marking Wendell Saylor, and it was in Sydney, and it was a dream come true, really, not to be on the wing, but that was the time I played Aussie. And then we won that game well, and then the following week I sat on the bench and didn't get on, and we won the Bledisloe Cup in 2003, and we've had it since.
Oh, amazing! Okay. You were there at the beginning of this.
I was at the beginning of the Bledisloe reign, the reign of terror.
Because anyone under the age of 30 won't even sort of remember life without the Bledisloe, but it used to be like a back and forth sort of thing. It was a big deal.
Yeah, the Aussie had it for a couple of years, I think, and then we took it back off them that year, and have had it since. Yeah, which is pretty cool.
And 2003 World Cup. So you were in that squad.
Yep, I played some of that. Played a few of the earlier tests, and then I still remember the semi-final. I was on the bench for the quarter-final against South Africa. We played really well, and then I had a little bit of a hamstring niggle, but it wasn't a hamstring, it was more of a tight back, so we got that sorted out. But the morning, I remember the team naming the morning on the Thursday before the semi-final, and all the team were, meeting outside the team meeting room, just wandering around before we went in, and then I seen Robbie Deans, and he made eye contact at any point, and I was like, that's the dreaded point to know before the name of the team. They're going to let you know you're not in it. And they said, we're going to go with Byron Callagher this week. He's got a pretty good record against George. So that's it. And I was devastated. But that was it. And and that was it. That was watched from the grandstands, and we were in trouble early against the Aussies. They were just better than us that day, unfortunately.
What's it like competing for the same position as like a Justin Marshall and a Byron Callagher? I've got to know Marshy pretty well, and he's a great human. He's a phenomenal human, but I could imagine he would have been a fucking pain in the ass in his playing days, especially if you're trying to take his position. Yeah,
halfbacks are competitive. Everyone's competitive at that level, and there was rivalry. There was everyone wants to play, and not everyone can do. But at the end of the day, it's about the All Blacks, and it's about the team, whatever team you're in. And sometimes the ego gets ahead of that, definitely, and. It takes an experienced leader in the team, or it takes a really good coach to see that and tell you to wind it back a few pegs, and it's about the team. And, I guess all professional athletes at some stage have had that conversation with a senior player or a coach to wind your head in a bit, and it's about the team. So in those moments you're disappointed for yourself, but you then do whatever you can to make sure everyone else in that team's ready to rumble.
I had Sir Steve Hansen on the podcast a few months ago. Yeah. He told a story about Marshy. I think it was a Super Rugby game, and he got told on the bus ride that he wasn't going to be playing. And when the team got off at the venue, he just stayed on the bus, just reading his book. So Steve ended up going back on, sitting next to him, and he goes, "Mate, every minute you sit here and every page you turn in that book, your teammates are in there losing respect for you. So you can either keep reading or get off the bus." Yeah. And he got off the bus.
Yeah, it takes a good coach or a good senior player to see those moments and help someone through. So, and that's why he's a good coach.
Who were your favourite coaches?
Ted was good. I didn't really not get on with anyone. Ted was an amazing coach. Just his ability to put everyone on the same page. I mean, that's coaching, right? Have 15 people all understand what they're doing, where they're doing it, and when they're doing it, and how they're doing it is coaching, essentially. And school teacher, and he just made sure everyone was on the page. They're all so different. There wasn't anyone that I didn't think was a good coach that I ever had. I really enjoyed the coaches. I mean, it's such a tough thing to do.
Yeah, John Mitchell, he's, I mean, one thing that's sort of looked over his time as All Black coach, I suppose, is the dropping of Kelly, which has been well documented. Yeah, what was it? I've had Kelly on the podcast. I know him reasonably well, so I've got his perspective. What's it like being in the All Black environment when all this sort of sideshow's going on?
Well, that was my first. So Kelly's last tour was my first tour. So you're very, you're not really aware of a lot of those bigger moments with senior players because that's all done in another room. For me, I was just so focused on doing what I had to do. This is my chance, and I don't ever want this to end. So I'm going to do everything I can. It wasn't really. I wasn't good enough to make it about anyone else. I just had to make it about me and do as well as I could at that stage. So I didn't know that Kelly wasn't ever going to be selected again. I know on that tour he didn't play a lot, but also that he had a bit of a knee injury. Like I don't think his knee was what it had been. So that's about all I knew. But listen, Kelly, great team man. Like honestly, as a young fella in there, he was a great team man. Great man to be around. Obviously, one of the greatest ever in terms of a rugby player, but yeah, also a really top bloke. Kelly was a good man. And Mertz. Like Mertz really, I spent a lot of time playing rugby with Carlos, and we had a really good relationship, and I really understood him on the rugby field. Against England, he got injured as well and came home. And then I played with Mertz, and he is a character and enjoyed the lighter moments. But again, a great man, and yeah, really enjoyed Mertz. He sort of helped me through a few things, but his way of dealing with pressure was really a lot different to other people's. And then it made me think about, how I prepare for a match.
When you say Mertz help you through a few things, what do you? It's just a very calm influence. Like those big pressure moments as a youngster, like Millennium Stadium with 80,000 people, roof on. You literally can't hear anything. It's just so deafening, the noise across the whole game. Like even calling a line out is hard work because you're screaming it and no one can hear it. Pressure on. They were competitive, and Mertz just being the Mertz he is, calm, cool, just happy, joking maybe about stuff, and that's just who he was. Who was your favourite person to room with, or the favourite people?
Oh no, I didn't. I just loved being away with the boys on tour. It didn't matter. Yeah, I didn't have a bad one, put it that way. Oh, there's a few bad snorers here and there, but
Tana, did you ever room with Tana?
No.
Apparently he was the worst snorer ever.
I didn't. No.
Did he get his own? I heard he got his own room for a while because the snoring was so bad.
I'd say so. Tana was he was up the top end. I was at the bottom end essentially. No, I never roomed with Tana, but yeah, listen, I enjoyed every single second away of my rugby career, injuries included. I mean, you get to a point where you actually enjoy waking up on Sunday morning being sore and shattered. You actually get to a stage where you train it, you live it, you actually, it becomes part of your life, just waking up sore, and it's almost like I've done this, I've torn that. It was like a
badge of honour.
Yeah, and I actually post rugby, you sort of you miss that. It's such a evolving, intense environment. Like you can have a great week of training and have a great game, and Monday morning you're just back in the moment. You're in the grind. You're just working hard, and you can have a great week, have a bad game. And then you have that Monday morning, everyone's angry and upset, and it's just heated and it's intense, and you do everything you can to get yourself ready for the next Saturday. Like you have multiple reviews. Like I find, like in a work environment these days, sometimes it can be a year. Like there's issues for over the year, and then you have a review and try and fix it. Like we used to do it every Monday essentially. When we played really badly, it would be a Sunday morning. And it's a really dynamic way of, you need things to improve very quickly, 7 days. I enjoyed the team dynamic to get everyone moving forward together in 7 days. It was fun, intense. Big conversations had to be had, particularly in the later part of my career with Auckland and the Blues. I never really made a leadership role with the All Blacks, but in those environments, I really enjoyed getting everyone ready for a big match.
And a lot of these lessons, I suppose, are transferable, so you can take them into the fire service and the other roles that you've had.
Yeah, I think I hope I am a little bit calmer in and around pressure, and a little bit more lighthearted around work until it's on. Like fire services, there can be some sitting around waiting for stuff to happen, which is never nice. So why not enjoy those moments? But certainly when the bells go down, it's game time, and you zone in and make sure others around you are zoned in.
Looking forward to moving into that chapter. Just a couple more questions on the All Blacks. The proudest moment as an All Black?
Just to wear the jumper. It was a road like not very well travelled. Des Connor was another Australian that I think wore the All Black jumper. He was a halfback as well. It was my journey. It was a different journey, and I'm proud of that. I wouldn't swap 1 minute in an All Black jumper for 200 caps as an Australian rugby player. I feel I was able to play for the greatest team on the planet. That's what I truly believe.
The fact that you get a little bit emotional just saying that sentence speaks volumes, right?
Yeah, I mean there's a badge of honour that comes along with being named as an All Black, and people expect you to be very good at what you do, but also expect you to be a good person. And I still hope I hold myself to those standards today.
Best and worst memories from that chapter?
The 2 years post my last concussion were they were my worst days, without a doubt. My best days, I'd say every day was my best day when I was in a rugby team, whether I was injured or not. I just loved every second of it, and I loved every second of it, and I think I've had an incredible journey with rugby, and I honestly, there's not a bad moment, and that's probably why I ended up where I ended up, because I just never wanted to stop and kept going, and that's probably what put me, at my lowest low. Was my chasing my highest high, put me in my lowest low.
Yeah, and for a lot of people, the tradition from high performance sport to no longer being involved in high performance sport is a tough one. First of all, the financial piece of the puzzle, was that sort of sorted? Were you quite smart with your money? Did you have some savings?
Listen, we're all really smart with our money until you get divorced, right? And then that doesn't help anyone, no matter what situation. So was I smart? Listen, I wasn't stupid with it. I invested a bit. I invested a bit into myself and my lifestyle for my people. And at the time, that wasn't a silly idea. And at the time, I had, an incredible life and lifestyle that no one in my family ever had. I had a batch and a boat, and I just was so thankful for where I was. I was very thankful that I had options, I guess. So that was nice. There's a lot of people that don't ever get an option, and I was very thankful that I was able to have options to do something that I wanted to do post-rugby.
As you sort of alluded to before, I'm paraphrasing here, you sort of retired in 2007 kicking and screaming after Dr. Stephen Carr said, look, mate, enough is enough. How was that first year post-rugby?
I was very ill. I did a bit of work with Jeff Thomas. I was working on the Outdoors with Jeff fishing and hunting show. So we maybe a couple of days a month we'd go and do an adventure and film it, and that's about all I could manage really. And I just know post those 2 days, if it was 2 days, I'd be a wreck for a couple of weeks trying to recover from it, just in time to probably go and do something else with him. So I was very unill, and I wasn't really capable of doing much more than that, unfortunately, for 2 years. And then I got my injections, and I sort of came good. And post that, like a month post that, I got a job with Auckland Rugby, being the team manager for the NPC team. I did that for a couple of years. But I really felt like I was still good enough to play, and I really wanted to play, but I wasn't able to play. But I had to watch it on the sideline, and it was really frustrating for me. And I just knew that I couldn't do it. So I ran into a mate who was a fireman, and I went and had a night at station with them, and really good crew, good team environment, and that's what I really missed. I really love that team environment, and that's what I've always had, like boarding school, being an electrician, a great team environment, footy teams, great team environment. Then I just really missed it. And the fire service, it gives me that. We're being a pretty tight crew, and not every day, but I reckon maybe twice a year that I'm in a situation where I think this could be life or death, and I need to be aware of what's going on around me and what's going on around the people next to me to make sure that we're safe. So I enjoy that. I think that takes a little bit of the pressure of the rugby world that I experience into the fire service. It doesn't happen every Saturday, but it does happen a couple of times a year where I'm thinking, this could go either way, and I enjoy that.
Yeah, and if you're talking something like that, being a first responder, like someone's life being on the line, then the stakes are far higher than any rugby game.
Yeah, well, I'm talking most days we're in a situation where someone's life is on the line, but a couple of times a year I'm thinking that's my life that's on the line here.
Okay, wow.
This could go either way. So, yeah, I enjoy that. The fire service it's a tough gig at the moment. We're really undervalued by our employers. I'm almost embarrassed.
What does an experienced fire service employee earn?
I think as a senior fireman, I think you're maybe a hundy, and then or just under, and then as you get into the bosses ranks, you go a bit higher than that. But it's not about wage for me. It's just being undervalued. They're a very hard organisation to work for right now. The people on the front line trying to save lives, not being given adequate tools to do that is actually harder than, like, I experience death a lot at work, and that's hard to deal with, but not being given the tools to help someone in that situation is very hard to deal with for me. It's different for other people. I just find an organisation should help its employees. Everyone in that organisation should be working towards getting that fire truck out the front door to save people in the community. That's what I believe it is, and unfortunately it's really not that at the moment. It's an organisation that looks after the top few at the top. They make some really poor decisions around what's needed and not needed, and it's an old man's club, and people get promoted into positions where they're yes men, and then the guys at the top continue to make the decisions that is not based on what is best for the community, but what is based on best for them. And I find that very difficult.
You've been really good at using the profile that you built through rugby to champion things like this that you're really passionate about and that you firmly believe in.
Well, that's part of wearing the jumper, right? You've got to be a good person, and you got to do what's right. And I think I'm doing what's right. Why shouldn't I use my position to try and make some change where I think it's for the good of the community and for the good of the community, basically. I mean, it's not, this is I think Neurocheck is for the community. I think fire service is for the community, and I sort of feel maybe New Zealand's lost its way as a community a little bit over the last few years. And, I think we need to start back at the community level and really concentrate on people in our little communities working well together.
Yeah, the fire service do a tremendous job. It's so undervalued. Can you remember the first death you experienced in that job? I just ask that because there's a lot of stuff that people sort of overlook. They think you just,
we do a lot of
taking cats out of trees, putting in smoke detectors for old ladies and going to fires.
So maybe 10 years ago now, I've been in for 14 years, so maybe 10 years ago we were told we're doing first responders to medical events. We'd call them, so basically cardiac arrest, we're going to be first responders. And it was like, overnight it was like, what? So we were always able to do CPRs, but we never got called to them. And then overnight we got called to them. And as a fireman, we see trauma a lot at work. Like I'd been around deaths and car accidents and whatnot, but could manage that. But then overnight we started going to these cardiac arrests, and we honestly, our incidence exposure to trauma went up 6,000%. 6,000% overnight. And we just started going to these medical events where, we just do chest compressions and people were dying, and a lot. And it tipped, a few colleagues over the edge. And, suicide in the fire service, there were a few of people in Auckland and around the country, and we had no help. We had no support. We had no counselling. Yet we continued to go to these medical events with, to be brutally honest, our medical training is the same medical training you would get as a office worker.
Like a St. John's first aid, half a day course sort of thing.
We do a 1 day course every 2 years now, and then we don't get anything different. And there was no support for us at the other end. And I got involved in Movember because we had firemen, good people committing suicide because they couldn't deal with the trauma anymore. And that's brutally not good enough. And we still, to this day, we have fire trucks that are breaking down every day. The New World Fire just down here, 4 months ago?
Yeah.
I was at that. So the day after it happened, I was there waiting for a fire truck to break down, and it didn't, in front of all the media. The next day, 2 fire trucks caught on fire. We're just so hopeless. Our fire service management are just so in depth. They're just useless at managing the most important resource in our job, which is our tools we need to help our communities.
I can sense your frustration.
Someone's going to die. Like I already know people have died because we have been able to help them. And my biggest fear is a fireman's going to die, and it's someone I know.
How do you and your co-workers cope with the trauma of the stuff you see and the stuff you experience?
Yeah, it's been a journey. I for a long time I couldn't go a night. I couldn't get through a night of sleep without waking up doing compressions on someone, like I'm doing CPR. I'd wake up, whether it was my partner or just doing compressions. So that's trauma. And so I had a psychologist that I used finally through the fire service, which was, unpacking that trauma is a skill, and it's tools I didn't have at the start, but tools I feel like I have now. And I see people with trauma. It's easier to having known that I've been there myself to sort of maybe help others, but sometimes it's a very hard thing to help someone until they unlock it. You can't see it while you're in it, but until you get out of it, that you can see exactly what it is. So, yeah, it's a pickle, particularly with all your friends you work with, your work colleagues, all going through the same sort of thing together. So it's been a journey, but we're definitely getting better. But we just need to be better in this country at resourcing the things we need, the frontline staff that we need. nurses, fire, police, ambulance. I don't understand why we don't have a great front line. Everyone, you don't need them every day, but when you do need them, you need them, right?
Oh yeah, and you want them to be very, very skilled.
And it's just why they're all under resourced. I just do not know. It's a crime.
When you think about your legacy, what would you like people to remember? Is it the rugby career, the work you've done to shine a light on concussion, the campaigning you've done for better conditions in the fire service, or something completely different?
I'd like Michael Jones told me a long time ago. A hard worker, loyal. That's how I'd like to be remembered. A good person, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great way to be remembered. Geez, are you typically this emotional? You're quite an emotional guy. You wear your heart on your sleeve.
Yeah.
It's not a weakness, by the way. I think it's
it
shows a huge amount of courage and strength.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard. I've always found it hard talking about myself, and that's why these things are never great. But I mean, particularly when my children are involved, I think I get emotional. But health and happiness, right? And
100%.
And you just try and help what you think you can help with, and I don't think I'm any more important than anyone else. I just think this is my story. I hope people listen, and I hope it helps. I guess I don't want it to hinder. Definitely, but we need to get better at asking for help.
Yeah.
And we need to get better at seeking some help out. And I can't expect other people to do it if I don't do it myself. And I don't want to be. Me talking about it makes me be better. So I can't expect other people to do it if I don't do it. So here I am.
Yeah, I'm the same in that department. Like, I talk about it a lot on the podcast, like the importance of vulnerability and sharing, even though I know I'm shit at it myself. Yeah. But the more I vocalise it, the more that I aware that the more that I'm aware there's a lot more work to be done.
Yeah.
I think in the All Blacks, I think it's probably better now than what it's ever been with guys like Artie Severe and TJ Perenara. But yeah, back in your day, it just wasn't a thing, was it?
Yeah, and that's not good or bad. That's just what it was.
Yeah.
And I know they're working. I think men in generally across society are working on it. I think November has been massive, and we're getting better. But there's always room for improvement, right? It always starts with education, and we teach our kids. I think kids at school should have counsellors and should have psychiatrists, because if they're using it at school, by the time they get to late teens, when there's some really big issues, can be quite complex, that they're already seeking. They've already sought help before, and it's easier for them to do that. We sort of, I feel we leave that to right at the very end, and then some people miss that last step. If psychology and stuff is used in school, we teach our kids to reach out and ask for help, then they're more likely to do it when they get themselves in a bit of a pickle when they get a bit older on.
That would be so cool if that was part of the curriculum, eh? Like, resilience, gratitude, mindfulness, the importance of speaking.
Wouldn't it? I think it'd change our communities. I think people would then start looking to help others around our communities, and we'll become better.
What's your inner voice like? Are you sort of like a cheerleader for yourself or a critic to yourself?
I can be harsh on myself, but I'm very thankful for where I am at the moment. I've got a great partner, and we talk a lot, and I'm very thankful for where I am, and I can be harsh on myself, but at the end of the day, my health and happiness, I bring myself back to that, and if I'm happy, which I am, I'm probably happy as I've ever been right now, and it's life's enjoyment. My health's good if I look after myself. I've probably put on a few too many kilos over the winter, so I'm going to deal with that. You're
looking like Stephen Donald in 2011.
Yeah, a little bit. I'm glad this job is not that tight, but I've had some injuries, and it's, as you get older, it gets a bit harder to bounce back, right? So I'll work my way through that. I don't have to work my way through it as a rugby player. I find now that at my age, I'm almost 50, that if I try and be that person, I just break myself. So I'm just going to moderation, work my way back into getting a bit fitter. A great stat Movember told me last year is that getting fit is 3 to 4 times better for you than the best prescribed medication for depression. So getting fit is 3 to 4 times better for you than medication for depression. Like, it's a massive stat, right? Going for a walk is better for you than medicating for depression.
Oh yeah, like if you put the benefits of exercise into a pill, everyone would be taking it.
Yeah.
People would be lining up for it.
And I now understand at my age that you don't have to run a Bronco sub 5 minutes because that's what the All Blacks are doing and train like that. You just have to be active and going for a walk. I try and walk every day. I can't run now because I just tear calves. So I just walk and I go to the gym and I try and do what I can. But if I try and train like an All Black, I just injure myself. So you know what? I'm just going to step back and just exercise like a normal human being, and not like a madman. Yeah,
the way you and I are the similar age. I'm a couple of years older than you, but there was a book I read that I really liked by this guy called Dr. Peter Attia called Outlive, and he talks about reverse engineering aging. So he's like, at 70, if you think, okay, well, I want to be travelling around Europe on rail, I need to be strong enough to put a 20-kilo suitcase into an overhead locker. Then at 50, you need to be doing exercises that are going to allow you to do that 20 years down the track. If you're going to be like walking briskly around Europe, then you need to be like, be able to walk 10, 15, 20 Ks comfortably in your 50s. Yep. Something I've applied to my life. You said before you're the happiest you've been in ages. What is happiness to you now? What makes you happy?
I feel like my kids moved out of home. They're in a great space. They're both excited about what's ahead of them. I've got a great partner. Good friends. I feel like I've got lots of different things happening at the moment. I'm probably not doing as much fishing as I'd like, but let's try and change that in the summer coming forward. I just, I feel like I've stopped trying to be so competitive. I've stopped trying to be the best person at the gym. I've stopped trying to compete with everyone at everything. If it's from cooking a barbecue to mowing the lawn, like I've really tried to release competition away from my life. I don't think it's a good trait. I know it's an important trait to have, but I really, as a person, particularly when you're not in a professional environment, when you compare yourself to just the average general person trying to compete against them, I don't need to do that. And it's very, it comes across as a real arrogance. And I really don't like myself in those moments where I get competitive. Like, sometimes it can be a game of touch. Someone will say something to me and I'm just like, all right.
It's like you're back there at Twickenham.
Yeah. And I'm like, fuck it, let's go. And I don't care if we fight. Like, honestly, let's go. And I then put myself in a car, and I hate myself in that moment because that's not fair on anyone, particularly myself. So I try my hardest not to be competitive anymore. I think that's the thing that really triggers me into being a nice person into not being a nice person and being all about winning. Life for me now, I don't have to win at everything. I'll still try, but I don't have to be brutal about it. So as long as I'm in that space, I find I'm really happy. A lot of people probably won't even understand that, but I don't like me as a human being when I'm ultra competitive. And I try. I don't get it right all the time. But
you never will.
I hope I do get it right because I don't like myself in those ultra competitive moments, particularly when it's not an All Black test or it's not a Super Rugby game.
It doesn't matter.
It just doesn't matter, right?
It's social touch.
I know.
On a Wednesday
sometimes
evening.
It's not even social. Sometimes it's against my kids. It can be a game of golf when someone will say something and I just don't enjoy myself in that moment, and I feel like I'm a better person when I'm not. So That's what
breathe.
That's what I'm trying to do.
When I had Steve Hansen on the podcast, he talked about his competitiveness, and his kids say it's an alter ego called Stanley, and they're like, Stanley's come out, and he said the cost it had on him is that his kids didn't want to play cards with him, they didn't want to play board games, anything, because it's just unbearable.
Yeah, it is. It's unbearable, and you come out of that moment and you see yourself, and you're like, God, that's a dicky thing to do.
Zero chill.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would that be? Another thing Steve said is that he's got a theory that a person's greatest strength is also usually their greatest weakness. Would that be your competitiveness? Like, it served you very well.
Yeah, but it's a horrible trait as you get older, right? People don't care. Like it just
doesn't matter.
Even if it's like going to the pub and having a few drinks with some friends, like there is a moment in my life where it's a competition to see who can drink the most, and I don't end up as a good person, and I don't end up enjoying myself doing it, and the next day I hate it, and and it's just that if I can reduce that gene away from me, like, don't get me wrong, it served me very, very, very well, but I think now at my age it's time to let it go. And
it's not a sexy quality in our 50s.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's an arrogant dick quality, right?
Yeah. But it's like the vulnerability thing we were talking about, and being able to speak about difficult things. So if you're aware of it, then you've got a better chance of putting a lid on it.
Yeah.
What about future goals? Are you much of a goal setter? Like, where do you see yourself at 55, 60?
My goals these days are like, I want to be healthy and I want to be happy, and as long as I tick those boxes, I feel like that's where I'm at my best. I've got issues. We all have issues. I find, like everyone else probably finds, that if you talk about them, that they get a bit easier. Like, that's crazy to find out at 50, right?
There's that saying it's not a new saying, but a problem shared is a problem halved. It's been around.
Yeah, so I'm working hard on myself to get myself in those situations to have those tough conversations about myself and about my life and about the people around me. So, that's good. My goals. I just want to be a good person. I'd love to see this thing kick off. I'd love to see Neurocheck get used. Is it? They probably don't want me saying this, and I don't really care. Is it the best thing we have right now? I truly believe that. And is it going to save the problem going forward? I don't know, but is it the best thing we have right now? If there's other things out there that people know about or using, then let's chat. Like, let's chat and get together, and maybe between all of us we can figure out a better solution. But right now, I really think, particularly in that amateur space, I really think that this is a tool that can be used to really assist us, sport, in accidents, in a time where there's not a lot. So I'm my goals for that are hopefully I can get it accessible to every New Zealander to be able to use, because until something else comes along, I think this is the best thing we have right now. And I truly believe that.
That's awesome. And I think we only just met today, but we've been talking for an hour and 3/4, and the Steve Devine that I've got to meet today, he is a good person.
Well, that's good. And I think we don't know each other prior to today, and it's a great skill to be able to sit and listen to someone. And you have done that. You have made it very easy for me to talk about some tough situations. So I thank you for that.
Well, I appreciate you being so open. Last couple of questions. Say we weren't in this room, but your family and friends were. How would you like them to describe you? What would you hope they'd say behind your back?
I'd hope they'd say that I'm hardworking and honest and loyal. That's what I set out to be.
Yeah. And are you proud of yourself?
Yeah. Listen, we're getting there. My journey's been very different to a lot of others, but everyone has a journey, right? So I'm very happy where I'm at right now, and from where I've been at both ends of the scale, I'm pretty happy with that.
This has been great, Steve Devine.
Long may it continue, eh?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Well, you're almost 50, so hopefully it's like half time.
Almost 50. That's hard to say, eh?
No, it's a great age.
I remember turning 30, and I remember when I was a younger kid, like 12 or whatever, I remember saying to myself, God, could you imagine being 30? And it was a voice that stuck in my head, and then I was quite depressed when I turned 30. I was just like, God, that's old. And now it's like, you know what? I can still act 30 if I want to, and have a good time. So 50 is not so bad.
You're doing great. And I'll tell you one big observation from this podcast today is you're very articulate and nothing wrong with your memory.
Yeah.
Your memory recall, spot on.
I feel some of my short-term stuff is probably, when I compare it to some of my footy mates, it's probably definitely on par with. But I feel some of the shorter-term stuff is hard. But what I understand is the shorter-term stuff is for everyone once you get a bit like, where's my keys, where's my, those sorts of things.
Mate, I've had 0 concussions, but I probably can't remember some passwords that I set up on my computer yesterday.
Yeah, good. So
I think it's normal.
So I'm not too bad there.
Yeah. Hey, this has been a great podcast today, mate. It's been really wonderful, and I can't thank you enough. Steve Devine.
Thank you.